Hi friends, in today's video I'm going to demonstrate how to work the crocheted neckline and armholes on the Peachy Keen dress. Certainly you can work this as knit instead, and there are instructions in the pattern on how to adapt this for knitting, but I do like the crocheted edging because I feel like it gives a sturdy finish to this otherwise nice and soft and flowy dress. All right. So what I have here is a crochet hook that matches my knitting needle size. So my knitting needle is a size 7, 4.5 millimeter, and so is this crochet hook right here. Okay, so you want to have a crochet hook that's the same size as your knitting needle. You can hold them up next to one another like this to make sure they're the same size, or even use your needle gauger and put both of them inside to make sure they're about the same. All right, so I'm going to hold the yarn in my left hand for crochet. And I am going to start here on one of the shoulder seams, and that's where I'm going to add the yarn. So I'm going to start by working into this first row right at the edge of the work. I'm going to insert my hook in, wrap the yarn for yarn over, and then I'm going to chain one just to build up a little height right here at the edge. When you are working crochet on a knitted piece, when you're working off of rows, you're going to work your crochet stitch in every other row for the right ratio of crochet stitches to knitted rows. So I'm in this row currently. I'm going to skip that row and work into my next row here. So I skip this row, work a single crochet, which is bring the yarn over and through, and then yarn over through the two. Work a single crochet in every other row when you are dealing with rows. Of course, since this is a neckline, we have stitches bound off here. The ratio of crochet stitches to knitted stitches is 1 crochet stitch for every stitch and a half of knitted stitches. So I'm going to jump over this big hole here. Never go into any big holes. It only makes them bigger. I'm going to insert my hook into this stitch right here, the one that looks like a little letter V. And I work my single crochet, and now I'm going to skip the next stitch and go just next to it. So I'm not going into 2 stitches away. I'm taking 1 more stitch and then a half and going in. So another way to think about this is here's the hole that I'm in. A stitch and a half is the third hole away. So 1, 2, 3. Right, so now here I have this funky gap from where I added the stitches, added the yarn to create my bind off. So I'm going to be careful here. 1, 2, 3. I'm counting the stitches. All right, so I'm in this space. 1, 2, third little hole. So I'm not counting the full stitches. I'm counting all the spaces between the stitches. So 1, 2, and then 3. Would be the spaces I'm counting. So I'm in this space. So I'm counting 1, 2, and I go in the third space away from the one that I was in. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Etc. So we're following that around the neckline. 1, 2, 3. And I'm starting here with the neckline because the armbands are much easier. 1, 2, 3. Since they're mostly rows. 1, 2, 3. All right, so 1, 2, and then I'm going to go right up here at the top of that stair step to grab that stitch. And then 1, 2, 3 right in here. And now here we are back again at rows. So I'm going into every other row. So in this row, skip a row. In here and skip. In here and skip. And now we're back at the seam. I'm going to grab a stitch right here at the seam as best I can. It's hard to get into those seams sometimes. And then I'm coming now around the other side of the neck. So I was working just now across the back of the neck. Here I am coming around the front of the neck, and it's the same ratios. where you see rows, you pick up in every other row. So it's 1 crochet stitch for every 2 rows of knitting. And then when I get to this point, just about now, that one's too big. That hole right there is where we shifted from rows to stitches. So I'm not going to pick up in that big hole actually. Once we shift here from rows to stitches, we're now picking up into every stitch and a half. So again, if you're counting every single little hole, 1, 2, 3, it's in the 3rd hole. So I'm in this hole, 1, 2, 3 is where I go right here. And this one's a little tricky since it's just where we added the yarn, so I'm actually going to go next door to it and kind of try to work that tight. 1, 2, 3. So a little fudging is okay. Avoid big holes. It only makes them bigger. And follow the ratio. 1 crochet stitch for every 2 rows and 1 crochet stitch for every stitch and a half. Or another way to think about that is 1 crochet stitch for every, or 2 crochet stitches for every 3 knitted stitches. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Little holes. 1, 2, 3. So you'll notice I'm not going into my bound off edge. I'm not going under this stitch here. That's not what this is because that would give you the wrong ratio of stitches here. I'm going into the fabric beneath the bind off edge. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and then we jump upstairs here. We're working all these single crochets. 1, 2, 3. And now here I am back at the rows. So that shifts to every other row that we do a single crochet. So I'm skipping every other row. So here we are back at the beginning. I'm going to go into the first stitch that I had gone into and work a single crochet. So the base of my neckline is finished here. Now I'm going to work 1 round of reverse single crochet. I love reverse single crochet. Sometimes it's called shrimp stitch or crab stitch. I love the way it looks. It gives a really pretty braided edge to your fabric. So I have my yarn held for traditional crochet. Let me move the bottom of the dress out of the way. I have my yarn held for traditional crochet. Instead of working every stitch to the left, I'm going to be working the stitches to the right for this reverse single crochet. So that starts off by my hook turning downwards and going into the stitch just to the right of the one that this yarn is coming out of. So I'm going into here. Okay. My hook comes up and I'm going to grab the yarn from above and pull it through, but keep that yarn to the left of the stitch that was on the hook. Wrap my yarn over, pull through. So that yarn over, pull through is very similar to the regular single crochet. So again, our hook comes into the stitch that's to the right. I'm going to jump up and grab the yarn and pull the yarn over through, keeping it to the left of this stitch here. So this is my new yarn over. This was the stitch that was on the hook already. Yarn over, pull through those 2. So I back in, yarn over, hook. Notice I'm holding on to that stitch on my hook so that it doesn't get jumbled up with the one that I just pulled through. And then I yarn over, pull through the 2. So in, grab through, and pull through the 2. So you dive down into the stitch. The hook comes above and grabs the yarn through, making sure that new yarn stays to the left of the one that was there on the hook. So we want this stitch to be on the right. Bring the new guy through. There we go. And then wrap and pull through the 2. That's the reverse single crochet. And you'll notice here, I'm working these reverse single crochet stitches on top of our base of single crochet that we had worked around the neckline just before. And at this point, now that we're crocheting on top of crochet, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. You don't need to worry about going into every third hole or whatever. Now it's just we're crocheting right on top of what we had already established on the previous round, on top of our base round. So these are the reverse single crochets, or the shrimp or crab stitch. And you'll see it makes this really cool braided edge. It kind of looks a little scallopy. I always love the look of this. It's a little awkward to work, of course. Once you get used to it, it's better. Oop, I think I went in the wrong place there. But here's a great example of how to take out. There we go. I went too far down into the fabric. So here we are at the end of the row. Here's my first reverse single crochet. So I'm going into that final stitch right here, working the reverse single crochet. I'm going to cut the yarn and then fasten off this last stitch, and then I'll take the tail and push it down into the base of the adjacent single crochet, reverse single crochet. And then that's the finished neckline edging. Very cute and summery, but also nice and sturdy and secure. And especially since this dress has a lot of bottom, it's nice to have a sturdy neckline and sturdy armholes to kind of keep the dress in shape. Let's work the armhole now. I'm going to attach my yarn right at the center, right here, by working into this stitch and pulling up the yarn and doing a chain. And then I'm going to work right here at the bottom. I have a few small stair steps from where I worked some decreases. Depending on the size that you made in the Peachy Keen dress, you may have more or less. But we're going to follow that 1 stitch of crochet for every stitch and a half here. So 1, 2, 3 is up here. 1, 2, 3 is right here. And now, just like that, we are ready for every other row coming up the side, because now we're dealing mostly with rows here on the armholes. So we're going to work all the way around, working our single crochets into every other row. When you get to the shoulder seam, there's a little bit of fudging. So I'm going to do my best to get into this stitch, which would be the next row in that every other row repetition. And then I'm going to come on the other side of the seam and start grabbing every other row this way, down this side of the piece. The other nice benefit of using crochet for armholes, especially on baby dresses like this, is that they're so small. If you were to have knitted around here, you'd need to be using, double pointed needles or a magic loop to get your work done in the round, if that's what you were going for. So the small circumferences are a little easier to maneuver with a crochet hook than they are with knitting. All right, So here we go. I've come down the side, all these little rows here. And now I'm encountering, let's see, one more row and then the stitches. So I'm going to skip that one more row, always skip the big hole, and then go into every stitch and a half coming down the bottom here. So stitch and then 1, 2, 3. So I'm in this stitch. So 1, 2. Basically, I'm going to head down here. 3. And then I'm going to insert my hook into the same spot that the first stitch came out of and work a single crochet to kind of be the bridge. And then I'm going to work my reverse single crochet all the way around. So I start on the stitch to the right, dip my hook from front to back, and bring it up and grab the yarn. So my hook turns a bit, and I pop in, grab it up, and through. Here we are at the base of the underarm. I've worked my last reverse single crochet, fastened off the yarn by just pulling that loop straight up and out. And then I'm going to bring my yarn to the wrong side by dipping it in just next to this reverse single crochet here from the other side. So there's our first armhole and our neckline. We're now going to work the second armhole the same as the first, and then we'll weave in some ends.